Son, and Holy Spirit. On Christmas Eve, it often seems that anything worth saying has probably already been said. Billions of people in millions of churches across the world have, for a very long time, gathered year after year to share and enjoy the story of Jesus' birth. Some tend to focus on the shepherds, on how strange it was that the angels chose them to bear the good news of great hope and peace. You see, shepherds weren't prominent. In fact, they were pretty far down the rungs on the social ladder, and most people thought they were a little bit shady. They didn't settle down like most respectable people did. So why? Why would an angel visit them instead of somebody else, or for that matter, anybody else? Maybe there's some symbolic significance, like how shepherds were known to be fairly simple and humble, and therefore perhaps more likely to listen and seek Jesus out. Or perhaps this was simply a practical decision on the angel's part. The census had everyone very busy, moving from place to place, a lot like us this time of year. But for shepherds, moving around was normal. It's what they did. So approaching them, probably a less distracted and more receptive audience. Of course, shepherds aren't for everybody. It's not that anybody's anti-shepherd, but they're pro-something else. Plenty of people prefer to focus on Mary and Joseph and their struggles. And that's a good part of the story. Riding on a donkey for any distance over rough ancient roads had to be very uncomfortable. But at 9 months pregnant, I can't imagine, and I don't want to. And once they got to Bethlehem, the neon sign at every inn was flashing, "No vacancy, no vacancy." They finally found some space in a cave or a barn, we don't really know which, only that it was better than giving birth in the street. And for some people, that place, with the hay and the cows and the goats and whatever else was in there, means more than the shepherds or the travel troubles of Mary and Joseph. I mean, what's humbler than taking your first nap in a feeding trough? What better way to contrast the greatness of Jesus with how he humbly came into the world? But for some people, the whole creche thing has gotten so familiar it's bred contempt. So we look to those exotic magi from the east, following the mysterious star. Problem is, they're not in Luke's gospel. Matthew has the copyright on them, and in the church's tradition, they don't show up for another 12 days on Epiphany. So if you're really into all the gold and the frankincense and the myrrh, come back week after next and we will set you up. Of course, for some people, sadly, none of this means anything. It's just a fairy tale for children who never quite grew up. A story for the sentimental and weak. An excuse for people like me to dress up in fancy robes and satisfy the gullible. That skeptical, sometimes cynical perspective is very popular right now. In fact, each of us from time to time views the world through that lens. And I can see why. Every year the church gets gussied up in bright colors and we trundle out all of our most cherished carols. And we sing. We sing, "O come all ye faithful," so that we can listen to angels we have heard on high that bring joy to the world and finally silent night. But after all that singing, then what? It's quite the show. There's no denying that. Some places even bring real camels and donkeys right up front. And if you're into that, I'm sorry. Don't come back next year. You will not get it. But for an increasing number of people, what we're doing right now isn't that much different from fireworks on the 4th of July. It's tons of fun and amazing while it lasts, if you go in for that sort of thing. But America doesn't get measurably better, and neither does the church at Christmas, from the fireworks. So what's the point? Well, just about everyone, including most of the skeptics and cynics I know, celebrate birthdays. As we grow older, they tend to become more low-key affairs. But for children, we try to make them special. Even for 1-year-olds who have no clue what's happening, except you can make a really big mess with your cake and Mommy loves it. A birthday celebrates someone because we are grateful they are alive. We often give that person gifts as a sort of a response to the gift that they give us. Their presence, their love, even their little quirks that are annoying sometimes. It's not all about them, it's not all about us. It's about a relationship that brings joy and meaning. Only the most heartless Grinch of a cynic would dismiss birthdays by saying, well, if you really love somebody, you don't need to throw a big party every year on the day they just happen to pop out of mom. We all know somebody like that, don't we? You don't? Okay, good on you. And if you know to, let me know and I'll pray harder. But there's just a smidgen of truth in that. The joy we feel for someone's life needs to be expressed somehow every day, or the annual birthday party is a bit of a fraud. And that's where we as church can do better. Christians celebrate Jesus' birth at Christmas. We rejoice over how God came into the world so that unconditional love might be more fully known. We give thanks for how God's power, revealed in great humility through Jesus, can bring people together by healing broken relationships, both between God and us, and between us and others. We rejoice over the promise of life renewed that restores connection and a sense of belonging to something bigger than ourselves. But to rejoice over God's life and love and power, to receive God's presence, both inspires and requires a response, namely to practice freely and fiercely the hard work of forgiveness and healing and reconciliation, not one day of the year, but every day of the year. What we experience tonight is thrilling, but it cannot compare with the ecstasy of a ruptured relationship being mended. Christmas means something else too. It is not just a birthday party for Jesus. It's also a celebration of our second birthday, when we are spiritually born again, if we choose to accept that gift. However, just as with any birthday, our second birthday involves more than a single moment in time. Being born again does not require some intense emotional experience, though sometimes that happens and it's very nice. No, being reborn is a process. Each day, we are given the responsibility to make a choice, to stay stuck or move forward. Every day we're offered a choice. to be humble and generous and prideful, or humble and generous, or prideful and superior and selfish. We're given a choice to be merciful and kind, or cruel and apathetic. Every day brings a fresh opportunity to either go on an adventure or muddle through life as usual. Our choices make a difference between being free or feeling trapped, of abiding in peace or seething with anger and hatred. Our choice makes the difference between living with hope and joy or futility and despair and cynicism. Making that crucial daily choice between celebrating and honoring 2 birthdays, not just one, isn't easy. In fact, we cannot choose wisely without God's grace nudging us along. And these aren't black and white either or categories. Nobody has ever been 100% kind. And hopefully no one will ever make it to 100% cruel. But being born again means moving the needle as best we can toward the love that makes life worthwhile. We can be shepherds who guide and guard, who humbly listen and seek out Jesus and share the story of his love. But maybe you're not a big shepherd fan. So we can make rough journeys like Mary and Joseph and the Magi. They're on their way right now. We can make those rough journeys trusting in God and taking things as they come, even when that means winding up in a place like a manger that stinks. We can offer our lives as a gift to God in response to the blessing of new and abundant life we receive in Jesus. Every day, a choice. A choice because we've been made free. And each day that we choose new life, each day we choose rebirth. That's a Merry Christmas and a happy birthday to you.